So I'm going to start with the bad news just to get it out of the way right at the beginning. We are completely running out of resources. The resources that we do have are being severely mismanaged and abused, and it seems that the people who are at the forefront of trying to manage these resources don't have the time, they don't have the funds. Everyone's getting tired and burned out. We all know this, and that's the bad news out of the way. Here's the good news. The whole planet knows what we're going through. By that, I just want to clarify, I don't mean everyone on the planet knows what we're going through. What I mean is planet Earth itself knows what we, as the arts community, are going through. And unfortunately, where we are right now in terms of our resource use, with the consumption and the development and the destruction of just the last 150 years of human history, which is this much compared to all of human history, we are on a path where human extinction is not an inevitable fact. Okay, so that was the good news. So what's the really good news? That the parallels between the arts crisis and the environmental crisis are legion, and that we're in a room right now with creative, forward-thinking people who are committed to change. So why do we care? We came here to learn about the arts, not to talk about the environment. So why is she up here telling us all about the environment? Well, first of all, there are the ethical reasons. If as artists we say that we are creative people, what are we creating if the art that we're creating is causing destruction in other areas? If the resources that we're using come from other countries where the rivers are being polluted as the result of their manufacture, are we being creative? Or are we being creative for ourselves in that sense, where suddenly our ideas become more important than the long-term consequences? So there are the ethical reasons. And then there are also the business reasons, which regardless of how you feel, whether you hate nature and just want to squish all the bugs, then there are the business reasons as well. Sustainable businesses are better businesses. There are higher levels of productivity, lower rates of attrition, the workers are happier, and everyone's proud. They come and bring their families. The Ford Motor Plant has shown this, and if Ford can do it, then come on, we can do it. I just want to be clear about the definition of sustainability. There are many definitions. There's a lot going around of what is green and what is not, which is actually a big problem. But the definition that I am going to be using today is that sustainability takes into account the whole, not just pieces in isolation. So there's this notion that sustainability, we have the environment, we have society's needs, and we have business. And that sustainability is the sweet spot where all three of those things exist together in perfect harmony. Sounds pretty good, sounds like it makes sense, but that's operating under the assumption that the environment, society's needs, and business are three completely separate worlds that only interconnect in this one little spot, which is completely absurd to anyone who's actually lived in the world. The way that it actually exists is that we have the environment, and within that we have society's needs, and within that we have business. So it can be said that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. So as we are looking to build our businesses, with all this environmental collapse that Tom talked about in his speech, we have our business collapse, so many problems with funding, with big business. The tendency is to turn in, to say, what can we do? How can we fix this? Maybe to reach out to that next sphere and say, okay, what do the people want? How do we get them involved? But what we're ignoring is the whole sphere in which all of those things are contained. As humans, we like to think that we are separate from the environment, that we are somehow dominant over the environment. We've built all these nice buildings that let us be inside and control the temperature, and we don't get rained on, and we can close the windows if the sun's too bright. But that's actually not true at all. We are completely products of the environment. So many of the things that are happening with our economy now are directly a result of environmental crises. I mean, oil. So I think this every single time that I'm walking down the sidewalk and I see tree roots that have broken the sidewalk. We will never win. Nature wins every time. And what an amazing metaphor for the work that we as artists are doing when we see that tree root that's breaking through the cement in the sidewalk. I love it every time. So in this age where we're becoming more and more distant from our natural resources, theater is more important than ever. because theater is an art form that requires that human beings be in the same room at the same time, experiencing the same story. We don't really need this anywhere else. Just last night when I was rehearsing this speech, I was hungry and I ordered a pizza and I ordered it on the internet and I didn't talk to a single human being one time. I was hungry, I had a pizza delivered to my front door, I paid for it, never talked to a person once. It was great, it was a really good pizza. But we need an antidote to that. We need a place where we can come together, where we can reconnect as human beings. And theater is one of the last remaining places that we have to do that in an artistic sphere. I'd say we've always been a participation culture. There's been a lot of talk today about how we need to engage audiences, we want to get them involved. I think that lack of involvement is a really recent phenomenon in human history. Humans used to always have to participate. If you didn't participate, you didn't get to eat or you'd be killed by bears. Whole communities worked together. You had to participate actively in your lifestyle. Then came industrialization, and everything's a lot easier. We can have pizzas delivered to our door and never talk to a human being once. But as a result, we are disconnecting from the activities that we're engaging with on a daily basis. So although in so many ways that has made our lives so much easier, we don't have to worry every day about going out and harvesting our food and bringing it and cleaning it and preparing it. We have a lot more free time for other things. But through that, we've lost a lot of that human connection. And theater, in that way, is connection to nature, even in an urban environment, because it gets us, human beings, products of nature, in the room together with each other. The arts are a natural resource. Nobody invented them. It wasn't somebody woke up one day and was like, I have this idea, painting. And then it caught on like wildfire. Cultures that could have had no way of communicating with each other or knowing what the other was doing were developing music, dance, storytelling, painting, theater, all across the globe, thousands and thousands of years ago. Seth's description of the first time that he heard classical music really struck me, and I think it's something that a lot of us as artists can identify with, whether it was a play or a piece of music that struck us, and we couldn't say why, but it hit somehow and took our breath away, and we knew that it was something that we wanted to be a part of. And theater is inherent to how human beings interact with the world. Spend 5 minutes with a kid, and you'll understand that pretend play, imagination, role-playing, hearing a story and then acting it out is fundamental to how we understand our environment. I'm a nanny for 3 kids and named Jane, Peter, and Betty. Their parents are here today also, actually. And Jane and Peter are 3 and 4 years old. Jane fell the other day and scraped her knee, and Peter ran up to me and said, "Sui, Saini hot her knee, and I pretended to be a doctor, but it didn't help." And in that moment, it was just, that's theater. Okay, she's wounded. We need a doctor. I'll be a doctor. Unfortunately, he's not actually licensed and it didn't help. But we got some Neosporin and a Band-Aid and the situation was under control. But it's fundamental to how we are and how we interact with our environment with no social prompting. So in that way, I think the arts are a natural resource and we ought to protect them as we protect other natural resources. When I was in 6th grade, I wanted to be an astronaut because there was this feeling that I got when I looked at the stars, that the light that comes from them has been traveling for who knows how many years, and how many people long before my life saw those stars, and how many of them might not even still be there by the time that their light got to me. And and it made me feel so insignificant and so powerful all at the same time, that I was here, that I was part of it, that I was seeing this huge cosmic world. And I still feel that same way now in theater. For example, seeing a Shakespeare play. When you see it, you can't help but think of the hundreds and hundreds of years that this play has been around. How many generations have seen it? How many different people have spoken those words across time? It reflects what is unique about us and about each culture, and also unites us all together in this huge part of human history. Sustainability became a shared value within Filament in the last year or so. We officially incorporated it as part of our mission statement, with really strong implementation in December 2010. That's just to say, we've not been doing this for very long. I'm not speaking to you as an expert, as someone who's lived off the grid my whole life. And I hope that's really comforting, that it's accessible, that it's not as hard as we all say it is, and we're trying and messing up at a lot of things, but hopefully sharing the journey, and it's something that we can all incorporate. We talk a lot about how theater is an ecosystem. Gwydion used that in his speech today, that we're very aware of the ecosystem of theater, how our audiences and our artists affect the art and the institutions, and how the health of all of them is necessary. What we're neglecting to see is that theater, arts organizations, are part of a larger ecosystem, part of the Earth's ecosystem, and it's not just about people. We're very aware of this artistically. We're very aware that keeping audiences happy, keeping artists happy, how all of that benefits the art. But where do we draw the line of who we care about? At what point do we say, oh, it doesn't matter that our sets are all being built somewhere thousands of miles away and then driven in huge trucks that are causing huge pollutants to the atmosphere? Those people don't matter. Our audiences matter, our artists matter. Buying all of our costumes at H&M, which come from these horrible plants in India that are polluting the rivers and causing huge destruction to the small villages, those people don't matter, because we, as an arts organization, we don't have a lot of money and we need cheap t-shirts. Well, to say that we as small arts organizations don't have influence, that if my company buys some cheap t-shirts at H&M, that's not really going to make a difference. How can we say that our art is making a difference, but that the choices that we make as arts consumers don't make a difference? So to say that we can affect change, we have to take into consideration the entire ecosystem. And one way to contribute to an ecosystem, or one way to think about being a successful member of an ecosystem, and as a natural resource that has a voice, unlike clean air or water, we can speak for ourselves, we can advocate for ourselves. To think, how can I contribute to this ecosystem? And this is a fundamental mindset that I think all of us as artists need to shift. We need to shift from what we need, to thinking about what we need, to thinking about what we can give. And often we've found recently, only in the last few months since we've been seriously implementing this, that all of the needs we have meet a need that somebody else has. So it's not about, I need this, I'm going to get it from you. It's how we can collaborate to make it happen all together. For example, we're working right now with a consultant who's helping us with sustainable business practices, really teaching us a lot about the world of sustainability. He's a man who's interested in starting a career as a sustainability consultant. So he needs an organization that's excited about the work he does, that will give him feedback, that will help build his resume. And we need his help, his services, his expertise. So we're partnering together in a mutually beneficial way. That was a huge need we had, and at the same time, we're meeting the need of someone else. We as artists have a lot of practice in this. We are very generous with our ideas. We're very excited to share, to collaborate. We know that a lot of minds in the same room can make ideas better. But what about our stuff? We're not as good with it about all of the stuff that we use. In theater particularly, we are consumers across a broad spectrum. Clothing, fabric, the print materials, set building. It's a whole microcosm of the world. We're huge dreamers. We have huge ideas about what we want to see in the productions, and we want to see them realized because we work hard and it's going to be a magical stage moment. And whatever it takes, as long as we have enough money in the budget, we can get it up there and it's going to change our audience's lives forever. But what about the long-term consequences? How do we deal with that? How do we guide ourselves to be more responsible with what we consume? And for guidance in this, we have a really great resource, nature. Before industrialization, there were 5 principles of life to self-sustain. I'm not going to go into all of them right now. Oh my gosh, I'm really running out of time. So a non-polluting, unlimited energy source, diversifying the gene pool, a change in responses to new conditions, controlled populations to stay within carrying capacity, any of these sound like they could be relevant, and recycling matter through food webs. And that's the one that I really want to unpack today. In theater, there's a lot of waste. I see a lot that, oh, the show just closed 30 minutes ago and we're already taking a hammer to the set. And think of all of the lumber that then we just chuck into into a dumpster at the end of a show. It's done, we've used it, it's served its purpose. Well, what if we could reuse it? What if we could give it to another smaller theater company and have them use it? So we have a waste equals food model, so that our waste becomes food for somebody else, like in the natural world. Then imagine if the money that we save sharing stuff with each other could go to pay people, and we could pay ourselves instead of buying lumber. I think about this all the time with donors, like, hey, we need some money. What do you need money for? Lumber? Didn't you just buy lumber? Yeah, that was the old lumber. We need new lumber. Like teenagers. We vote with our dollar as institutions. Do we want to be supporting local businesses? We need a grassroots approach to arts sustainability through the same principles of environmental sustainability. We need to look at the whole and not just parts. Our artists, our audience, the institution, and our environment. Paul Hawken is he's an author and an environmentalist. And when asked, I'm going to paraphrase a quote. He said, "When asked about what's going on in the earth, I'm often asked if I feel optimistic or pessimistic, and here's what I say. If you look at the data and you don't feel pessimistic, or if you look at the science and you don't feel pessimistic, then you don't understand the data. But if you look at the work that people are doing every single day on the ground level and you aren't optimistic, then you haven't got a pulse." We as artists are uniquely equipped to deal with both of these crises. Augusto Boal used the word actors in two ways, that an actor is one who performs and one who takes action. We are all inherently activists. We take rooms and we turn them into whole new worlds every day. And more than that, we invite other people into those worlds and ask them to imagine with us. And they do. And imagine if that happened anywhere else, if you walked into your office one day and you said, hey guys, for 2 hours, let's pretend that girl's Juliet and that guy's Romeo and we're all in Verona. Can we do that for 2 hours? They'd think you were crazy. But we do it all the time by the thousands in theater. So imagine if we invite people to a world where we say, everything in this world had no negative impact on the environment. Everyone who helped make this world was treated with respect and kindness. And all of the money used to create this world went right into our neighbors' pockets. And then we invited people into that room, and we asked them to imagine that the whole world was made that way. Imagine the power in that. Because guess what? The whole world can be like that. We just have to act. Thank you.